Okay, let's talk about question forms. This is quite a big topic and it covers what we have studied in the previous levels. Here there is a new type of question to study. So, how do we form questions? In English, you have a specified word order that we have to follow. This word order is one for statements and another for questions. For statements, you know that usually we put the doer of the action in the first place. So I'll just give you an example here. He gave me flowers. This is the subject, poдлог. Subject, you have it here. First place in the sentence. Second place, second position, you've got the verb. Gave. Then, objects. Here I have two objects. Две допълнения, пряко допълнение, непряко допълнение. That's fine. After that is everything else. Значи структурата ни е кой върши действието, какво е действието, всякакви допълнения, каквито може да имаме и всичко останало след това. Това ни е за съобщителни изречения. Statements. Subject, verb, object. Now, this is for statements. What do we do with questions? Well, with questions, we need to consider first what is the question type. So, we can arrange questions in different groups. The first group are yes or no questions. Yes or no questions are called like that because they require a yes or no for answer. For example, do you speak English? Yes, I do. Do you speak Italian? No, I don't. Usually, these questions start with an auxiliary verb. Имаме спомагателен глагол, с който започваме. Here, this is do, but it can be any auxiliary verb. Then you have the subject, then the main verb, object, and so on. What's important here is that the tense doesn't matter. Времето няма абсолютно никакво значение. Ако знаете формулата, можете да си направите този въпрос в каквото и да било време. Тук съм ви дала в Present Simple Do you love me? But I can do it in the past as well. Did you see the film? Has he quit his job? Will they help us? As you can see, this is the auxiliary, this is the auxiliary, this is also the auxiliary. Will is a modal verb, but they act as an auxiliary in the sentence. Subject, this is the subject, this is the subject, this is the subject. Main verb, главният ни глагол. Here, quit, help. So, this is how you form yes or no question. Start with the auxiliary, put the subject, the main verb. If you have an object and everything else, they come after. Remember, when you translate these sentences, the auxiliary verbs are not translated. Когато превеждате тези изречения, спомагателните глаголи няма как да ги преведете на български, защото на български те нямат значение. Единствената им структура, единствената им всъщност смисъл да бъдат в изречението е да ни покажат, че имаме определено време, че имаме определена форма. Затова се нарича спомагателни глаголи. Те ни помагат да си направим изречението в определено време, в случая с просто време, въпрос, отрицание и така нататък. Това, което превеждаме всъщност на български, е главния глагол. Така че не се обърквайте по това, къде да сложите. Това ни бяха yes or no questions с спомагателни глаголи. Now, what do we do if we only have the verb be? Когато имаме глагола съм, нещата са по-опростени. Знаете, че с глагола съм, за да направим въпрос, просто трябва да имаме инверсия. Are you happy? Yes, I am. Were you alone? Yes, we were. Тук основният ни глагол е глаголът съм. Друг глагол нямаме. Това е важно, защото когато си правите едно изречение на български и искате да го преведете на английски, в това изречение, ако имате глагола съм, най-вероятно няма да ви трябва друг глагол, което означава, че няма да имате do, няма да имате has, няма да имате will и така нататък. В случая, аз съм ви дала с сегашно време, но може да имате и минало време, естествено. Когато имате въпрос с глагола съм, просто го слагате в самото начало, след него слагате подлога. This is the verb, this is the subject. And that's all. You don't need an auxiliary verb at all. So, these were our yes or no questions. The next group, WH questions. WH questions are called like that because they start with a question word or a question phrase. Usually, they begin with WH. Well, apart from how. So this is why we call them WH questions. WH questions cannot have yes or no for an answer. You need information. But it's really easy to make such a question because you follow these structures for these questions and you just put the question word in front of everything. So, for example, do you love me? I can add who do you love? And then it becomes a question with a WH word. I can ask the question, are you from Bulgaria? Yes, I am. This is a yes or no question. But if I put where in front of are you, I can ask, where are you from? And then I will have a WH question. So, what you need to do is just take a word or a phrase, it can be a phrase, don't forget, put the auxiliary verb if you have one, the subject and the main verb, or if you have the verb be, just the verb be. That's the only verb in these sentences. Не забравяйте, че ако имате глагола съм, обикновено ще ви е само той в изречението. Когато глагола съм ви е спомагателен глагол, той не се превежда, така че ако имате глагола съм на български, иначе няма да ви трябва друг глагол. So, these are our first types of questions, yes or no questions and WH questions. Another type of question that is from the previous level is called subject question. With the subject question, we ask for the doer of the action. Питаме за подлога. For example, in this sentence, where are you from? The information I'm looking for is not who, but where. Питам откъде си, не кой си, а откъде си. So, I'm not looking for who does the action. Here, in subject questions, this is what is the question about. Who broke the window? Кой щупи прозореца? Jim. Who is it? Tom. What happened? Какво се случи? Nothing. One of the ways to do a subject question is to write a statement like this one. Jim broke the window. And if I want to ask for the doer of the action, I just take a question word and I put it in Jim's place. You have to remember several things about subject questions. First of all, there is no auxiliary verb in subject questions. I don't have who did break the window. This is wrong. Which means that if you have a sentence in the past, the verb will be in the past, not in the infinitive. I can say, what did Jim do? Какво направи Jim? This is not a subject question because I have Jim right here. He is the doer of the action. В този въпрос аз имам Jim ето тук. Той върши действието. Аз не питам кой е вършил действието, а питам какво е направил. Затова във въпроса си имам спомагателния did и главният ми глагол е в инфинитив, тъй като did взима миналото време. Когато обаче задавате въпрос за подлога, този спомагателен глагол изчезва. Затова тук нямаме did и нямаме break, а имаме broke. The same thing will be true for present simple. Let's say I want to ask, кой готви в твоето семейство? Who cooks in your family? My mom. Notice that I have the S here. Because again, I don't have a question like this one. This is an object question. Всички въпроси, които включват подлога в самата структура на въпроса, са object questions, защото ние имаме вършителя на действието във въпроса. Ето за това тук имате subject и тук имате subject. Тук също имате subject. Защото самият вършител на действието е включен във въпроса. Когато обаче ние задаваме въпрос за това кой върши действието, тогава е subject question, а не object question. Ето тук имам subject question. Кой върши това действие? Кой готви твоето семейство? Майка ми. Тук питам какво прави майка ми. Което вече изисква спомагателен глагол. This is the auxiliary. Does. Щом като има спомагателния глагол в сегашно просто време, знаете, той взима S окончанието, така че главният ни глагол е в инфинитив. В този случай тук обаче, тъй като отново губи спомагателния глагол, моят глагол си остава с S. Трябва да внимавате за това. Словоредът, както виждате, тук е същият като... Тук съм забравила едно S. Като този за съобщителните изречения, които бяха с ето този словоред. Започваме с подлога. Затова най-лесният начин да проверите вие дали имате правилно зададен subject question е да вземете ето този subject question и да замените отговора с въпросителната дума. Защото всъщност вашата въпросителна дума, тя е граматически подлога в този въпрос. Ако взимайки отговора, ние получим нормално изречение като словоред, то значи имаме правилно зададен въпрос. In this case, my mom cooks in your family. Of course, this is my family, but it doesn't matter. The sentence is with the correct structure. So, it's a correct subject question. So remember, subject questions ask about what is going on or who is doing the action. There is no auxiliary verb. And the word order, словоред, is the same as for statements. These are our subject questions. Now, the new thing here that we need to see are direct and indirect questions. These are actually not so difficult. So let's see the difference. If I ask, where is the bathroom? How old are you? Are you married? These are direct questions. We ask them the way they are. We don't try to be polite. We don't try to put extra phrases. But if we're asking a question which is maybe a bit personal, we don't want to offend the other person, we want to be polite, then we need to make an indirect question. Трябва ни въпрос, който не е толкова директен, за да бъде по-учтив, да е по-формален и по-учтив в случай, че задаваме въпрос за, например, лична информация. So this question here, where is the bathroom? I can make it into an indirect question by putting a phrase like, excuse me, could you tell me? Or excuse me, can you help me? Find something something. So, this changes the sentence. As you can see, the order of the elements changes. So, I have, excuse me, could you tell me where the bathroom is? This is probably the most common mistake with these questions. People very often say, excuse me, could you tell me where is the bathroom? This is wrong. When you make an indirect question, you need a phrase like this one to introduce the question. Трябва ни фраза, която да представи въпроса, да подготви човека от среща. Then, if you lose this part, excuse me, could you tell me where? You should be left with the beginning of a statement. Значи, премахвайки тази въвеждаща фраза и някаква въпросителна дума, която има във въпроса, би трябвало да ни остане тази част, която всъщност да ни започва едно съобщително изречение. Например, the bathroom is on the third floor. This is the case with be. That's the only verb here. Let's say I have a question with an auxiliary verb. Have you got a boyfriend? The direct question. Now, this is also a yes or no question. So, if you have a yes or no question, like, are you Bulgarian? Българин ли си? In Bulgarian, we will say, извинете, мога ли да ви попитам дали вие сте българин? Или, чудех се дали си имаш гадже. This word, дали, in Bulgarian, we say in English with if or whether. You can choose. If or whether. So again, we have an introductory phrase. I was wondering. After that, if or whether. And then again, this is not a question. This is a statement. You have a boyfriend. Отново самия ни въпрос вече не е в формата за въпрос, а е във формата за съобщително изречение. Това е важно. Ако въпросът ми беше българин ли си, I was wondering if you are Bulgarian. Чудех се дали си българин. Както виждате, ето това всъщност не е въпрос. Не е Are you Bulgarian? With WH questions where we've got an auxiliary, we lose it. How did you do it? I was wondering how you did it. We lose the auxiliary and the main verb is in the past in this case because this is the past tense. So, what we need as elements is an introductory phrase, then you can have a question word or if whether and an affirmative sentence word order. Това значи, че словореда ни на самия въпрос, самата част на въпроса, която задаваме, ще бъде с положително изречение, като за положително изречение. Съобщително. Do and did, if they are auxiliaries, we don't use them. Here is another example. How do you spell that? Could you tell me how you spell that? Not could you tell me how do you spell that? Here are some introductory phrases, but be careful with the punctuation. You only have a question mark if this is a question. You will see other such phrases in your books, in the grammar pages, 128 on the left here. You will notice that some of them have a question mark, others don't. So this is a good example of phrases which are questions and not so much. Now, another type of question that we are given are 2 or 3 word questions. These are very fun, but also very informal. So usually you can use them with your family, with your friends, but not in a formal situation. These questions are a lot like the questions that we ask in Bulgarian, like на къде, с кого, откъде на къде, как така, защо така, and so on. So, these are some examples. Let's say I'm going out and my parents stop me at the door and they ask me, where to? На къде? Who with? С кого? What for? Защо? Such as, например, why is that? Защо така? How come? Как така? Why not? Защо не? These questions we can use when both of the participants in the conversation know what this is about and they are close, they understand each other, so try not to use them in a formal situation because it's not the correct register. Another thing that we should discuss are prepositions in questions. Now, let's say a very simple question. Откъде си? You know the structure. Where are you from? In Bulgarian we say откъде си. But in English we don't say от, къде си. We say where are you from? Къде си ти от? Why is that? Because usually in English the preposition goes in the end. We already discussed questions with WH words. We need to start with the word. I can't start with from. Well, actually I can if I want to, but this is very formal and not a lot of people use them. So I can say, for example, from where are you? But this is very formal. And if you say the question like this, you risk doing a very common mistake, from where are you from, which is wrong. So, let's see some types of prepositions in questions. Who are you in love with? В кого си влюбен? Where do you come from? We already say. Who do you work for? За кого работиш? What are you talking about? За какво говориш? What are you looking for? Какво търсиш? You can have. Usually these are because the verb is with a preposition, like in the case of what are you looking for? Here, look for is a phrase, so we need to put them together. I can't say for what are you looking. But yes, this is important to consider when you're making questions with prepositions. Usually the preposition is in the end of the sentence. Only in very formal English can you say something like this. With whom did you go? Instead of who did you go with? But it's not necessary. Now here in the file you will see a table with more information about subject and object questions if you need to. So that's the type of questions that we have studied up until now, as well as the new information. Now we're going to do some exercises with them, and we'll see what questions might arise.